with us right now. How are you, my friend?
How you doing, Eddie?
I'm good. I'm good, Dave, and that's a true story. Usually my mail doesn't even come late, so the rock gods were with us because guy handed me the envelope. I rip it open. I email your wife, say thanks, listen to it. I'm like, this is great, and here you are. So I didn't even know this was coming. You snuck this out on me.
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk a lot about it, and it was just one of those things where we spent a couple of weeks listening to tracks and making sure which ones we were going to pick, because we picked them from 2 nights. We played the Friday and Saturday that weekend, and then of course we were all sitting around listening to the mixes and everything. So we were just too damn busy to think about even getting it out there to many people. So it just happened very quickly. It was like the mixes are done. We go to mastering, and then about 7 or 8 days later, we got the CDs in hand. So it was that quick.
Well, the album is a double CD called Live at the Mystic from Y&T. And Dave, obviously this is being broadcast throughout all of America and Canada right now. Give us a little background on the venue, the Mystic. I understand this is a special venue for you, right?
Yes, it is. Every year, well, certainly since 2003, we've been playing there every year, and always about the same time, just before Thanksgiving usually, or maybe just after, depends on when we can get the venue. But it's usually before Thanksgiving, and we do a weekend there, and there's something about this theater. I don't know what it is. Eddie, I mean, I played there even with my solo band first, like a couple of years before that, and it was the first time I'd ever played there, and I thought, wow, I don't know what it is about this thing. It just makes the crowd into it. It makes the band into it, which, of course, they feed each other. I don't know what it is, but it's become this landmark gig to go to if you're a Y&T fan. And so people fly in from all over the world every year in sometime in November and meet up at the Mystic Theater for the weekend. And what's cool about it for me, too, is it's in the wine country, man. So
where is it? Is it right in your backyard, kind of, or where is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's north of San Francisco by about an hour or so, and it's just a great place, a little town called Petaluma, California. And and every November, all the local hotels are just so happy to see the Y&T people coming in from all over the place to get the rooms and have that great feeling of I don't know, it's like a family vibe there, and it's not a huge place, but it's an old theater converted, and it just has this vibe to it, the sound and everything.
Well, as a lifelong Y&T fan, it sounds like I need to make a pilgrimage one of these years.
Well, yes, of course, Eddie.
I've never been there, man. I didn't know. I mean, I'm an East Coaster. You know that. I mean, I go back to the days of going to L'Amour's and hoping your car was still there when you got out at 4 in the morning on the Black Tiger tour.
Those were cool days, man. The L'Amour's, I'll never forget those.
No one could forget them.
Oh, man, I tell you, that was just so cool because it was just like you said, man. We finally got out of there. And the sun was coming up, and it was like, wow, man, talk about a late show, but it was absolute maniac time out there. That was great.
I've told this story a number of times on the air, and it's the God's honest truth. I mean, back around Black Tiger, when I first saw you guys play there, for people that don't know, L'Amour's is just this bad area of Brooklyn, but this legendary rock club, and they would start the bands at 1:30 in the morning, and I lived in Jersey my whole life, and Brooklyn is 2 bridges and a good hour away and a bunch of tolls and all that. And I'd roll in as a kid, living at home to my house at like 4:30 in the morning, and I creep up into my room and just pray my parents didn't hear me. And just as I'd hit the covers, my mother would blast in and like, "What could you have been doing at this hour?" And I'd be just like, "Mom, I was just seeing Y&T," and she was having none of it. Like, to this day, she believes I had some covert thing going on. I was just watching a band, but no one could fathom, especially my old school Italian mom, that I'm in a place in Brooklyn watching a band at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, no, I know. It was definitely something I'll never forget. Especially in the States. I mean, you don't go on at 1:30 in the morning in the States. I mean, that was an absolutely bizarre vibe. It was so cool. All of those venues, all of the L'Amour's. There were 2 of them that we played, actually.
Yeah, L'Amour East too, the one in Queens. That's right.
Right.
Well, you know, this recording is also significant. We're talking live with Dave Maniketti of Y&T. It's significant too, Dave, because this is the first thing released since the passing of Phil Kennemore, and the first recorded release with Brad Lang on bass. So this is really kind of his initiation on album with Y&T, right?
Oh, it sure is. And you can imagine what he's feeling like right now. I mean, he's just over the moon right now about the thing. And I don't blame him, man. I mean, you know, number one, he came in and was our savior when Phil got sick. And, you know, it's really tough to fill the shoes of somebody that has been with the band since the very beginning. And of course, he was my best buddy. But Brad came in and just kicked butt. I mean, it was unbelievable how well he not only fit in the band, but how well the fans went crazy for him, you know. So it was very cool, man. And so for him to finally get, you know, his chance to get on a Y&T record, it was great. It was great. I was happy for him.
Yeah, well, as I said to you in the past, and I said to Brad, obviously we all wish that Phil was still with us, and we all miss him greatly, but I don't think you could have found a guy, especially on such short notice like you did, no matter how much time you had, I don't think you could have found a guy that could have filled this spot better than what Brad Lang is doing, not only from a playing standpoint, but performance, vocals. I mean, Phil did a lot more, if anybody's a Y&T fan knows, than just stand up there and play bass. I mean, he contributed a lot more on that stage, and, you know, Brad's got it all covered, and just, I think, does a remarkable job.
No, I agree. And so it's a testament to him and, of course, you know, the band and how we sound right now with him. And it's just been an amazing decade for us. I mean, really. I mean, the last 10 or 12 years have just been outrageously good for us. And the band plays better than we ever have, as far as I'm concerned. And the vocals are tremendous, and you know, all the way around, all the guys are great. I mean, it sounds like a studio record, and this is not overdubbed. I mean, this is a real deal, man. So I'm real proud. I'm proud of this record, because when I finally listened back to it in its entirety, I was like, man, I think this is one of the best things we've done in a long time. You know, even though, you know, they're previously recorded material on other records, it feels like a new thing. It almost feels like we went back and re-recorded all of our best songs and then some, you know.
Well, I haven't had a chance to do that yet, because it's literally that new to me, and I'm hearing a lot of it for the first time as I play it here, but it certainly sounds that way, and I can attest, having seen Y&T a lot, especially recently live, that yeah, this is I mean, in your face and real and raw in the way a live album should be. For me, Dave, I mean, obviously your hardcore Y&T fans like myself are going to love this, but you know, I'm still such a fan of live albums. I love when my favorite groups do live albums, but in a way it kind of sucks, because if you think about it, the 70s was the era when live albums actually broke bands. I mean, they were landmark releases, and really ever since the 70s, live albums are almost kind of regarded as these kind of fan-only sort of releases. They never really do what I think they were so great at doing in the 70s, which was exposing the catalog in a great in-your-face sort of way to the fans. It kind of sucks that live albums over the decades, I think, have lost their importance and luster a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. I mean, you know, obviously when I was a kid growing up, some of the biggest records for me in my collection were the live records. You know, the Live at Leeds from the Who in Japan, you know, made in Japan, like Purple, and even Allman Brothers, you know, Live at Fillmore East. I mean, I listened to all that stuff, and those were the records that captured my attention more than anything, because you were really feeling the vibe of these guys playing live. I mean, studio is great. You know, you get all the time to do your overdubs and do the best you can, but, you know, when you're on the spot and you're actually interacting with the crowd and you get to capture that moment, to me, that's something you can't recreate in a studio performance, no matter how good you're doing. And we all felt the same thing about this when we were listening back to these tracks, that the heat that was coming off the stage, that was the stuff that was on here, you know, and that's why we felt like, you know, let's do this, let's mix this thing and put it out there.
There's been a number of Y&T live things over the years. I mean, not a huge amount, but a good amount, 4 or 5 things that come to mind immediately. Where do you put this in the catalog? I mean, obviously, there's different people on some of those recordings as well, but when you look at it going all the way back to the Open Fire Live and all that, I mean, how do you feel it kind of slots in?
Well, you know, Open Fire Live was classic because it was the all-original band, and we were kicking butt in a local place, and you know, it was a great record, and all of the live product was fantastic. Our what we thought were last shows with Jimmy DeGrasso and Steph Burns on the Yesterday and Today Live thing, 91 that came out, or 90.
Right.
That was fantastic too. But you know what? I mean, I'm only living in the now. You know what I mean? And you know, all those things I'm proud of, and I'm really happy that they're out there, that we made performances, and you know, for time immemorial, they're going to stand up to something. But this thing just kicks my butt. I mean, it really does. I feel so good about this record because it shows the maturity of the band, and I don't mean by age, I mean just by the maturity of our playing ability. It's really, we've just gotten better at what we do as far as I'm concerned, and this is one of the first things that really, to me, that's been out there for years for us, that really cements that.
Talking live with Dave Maniketti of Y&T. The new album is Y&T Live at the Mystic. It's a double live album recorded in November over 2 nights of 2011 with the current lineup of the band, which also includes John Nyman, Mike Vanderhule on drums, and as we mentioned, Brad Lang on bass. The album obviously is, not obviously, but appropriately, I should say, is dedicated to Phil Kennemore. Dave, how is Phil's family and stuff doing now that it's been a little time since he passed away?
Well, it's still tough for them. I mean, quite frankly, you know, I know that his wife is still very, very upset about the whole thing, and, you know, it's going to take a long time for her. And I don't know, you know, I mean, the way she's reacted to the whole thing, she may never get over it completely, and I don't think you ever do, really, but it's truly affected her, pretty much devastating her life. So it's been tough. It's been very tough for her, and the rest of the Kennemore family. You know, I got to give them props. These guys, you know, a lot of them are left over, our nieces and nephews and, you know, cousins and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? They're showing up to every one of our shows, man. And it makes me feel great that, you know, we're still part of their family, even though Phil has passed. And I think that, you know, in some way we're sort of keeping Phil's spirit alive for them. Obviously we are, because you know, Phil and I wrote the majority of the songs together, so, you know, what I have that I bring to the stage and what we bring to the stage is just as much about Phil as anything. But, you know, it's really nice to see, you know, that they have kind of transgressed over to us, and they still are there with us. And, in fact, we just played a sold-out show 2 nights ago at the Avalon Concert Club venue down the street from my house, as a matter of fact. And unfortunately, it was a closing night because they got forced out because of other reasons, business reasons and such. But it was the only venue in the South Bay here and in the San Jose area that would book bands like us and UFO and, you know, all the bands that everybody wants to see. And it's just kind of a drag that there ends up, you know, like so many other places, a lot of the good clubs, like Lemore's and so on and so forth, they don't last forever. And we had this great, over 1,000 people in the room, and again, the Kennemores showed up, and in fact, Hannah Kennemore, Phil's wife, was there as well, and so it was a great night.
Tying in with that, Dave, I noticed, and again, I haven't had a chance to listen to this record beyond a track or two, but I noticed in the track listing, looking at it here, that you guys played Squeeze, which, of course, for people who are Y&T fans, you know that was one of Phil's songs that he sang. Who sang it? Did Brad sing it?
No, we gave that one to John, and John's our guitar player, and he just knocked it out of the park, man. I mean, I'm so happy about him doing that. It's funny because typically, you know, whenever there was a song that somebody else in the band sang, and there weren't many of them, there were a few songs over the years that Phil sang, and a few that Leonard, our original drummer, sang from way back when. Some of our oldest material, and whenever one of those guys sang it, I always felt like we should give it to somebody else in the band to sing rather than me, because I'm already singing everything else, and it would go along with the whole vibe behind what was happening back then anyway. Why, you know, Phil wanted to sing a song here or there or whatever. So John has taken that up, and John pretty much sings anything that was sung by somebody else other than me. And man, once he started singing this song, I mean, it was so cool to see this guy up there taking over my mic and just killing it. It's so cool. So we just thought, you know what, this needs to be on there. This needs to be, you know, part of showing everybody, okay, we've moved on, and this is what we do now with a classic Phil song.
Talking live with the great Dave Maniketti of Y&T. It's Eddie Trunk. Dave joining us talking about the new double CD from Y&T called Live at the Mystic. The other thing significant about this is the fact that you were celebrating 30 years of the Earthshaker album, and I know there's a good amount of material from that on here as well. So that had to be fun to dig out, like Squeeze and some of the other things on there, huh?
Oh yeah, that was cool. You know, last year was the Earthshaker 30th. This year it's Black Tiger's 30th. Next year it'll be Mean Streak's 30th. It just keeps going. And what's cool is that, you know, we'll pick a venue along the way as we're touring, and we'll say, okay, hey, let's do the whole thing here, you know, along with a whole bunch of other material, because we play over 2 hours every night, as you know only too well. And so we get a chance to play a whole record and then still have, you know, 10 or 12 more songs that we can stick in there, if not more. And so it's been great. You know, the Earthshaker thing came off fantastic, and we played it in probably 25% of all the venues we toured with last year. And then this year, we're probably doing anywhere from 25 to 50%. Depends. We have a lot of gigs to come in the end of the year here. So, you know, we're going to be doing the full Black Tiger record at a lot of the shows, along with tons of our other stuff.
You talk about the fact that these albums are 30 years old, which is just crazy to me to think about, because they just don't feel that way to me, having grown up with this stuff. But for you, as the guy who plays it and sings it every night, what's the stuff that you have the most fun doing live?
You know what? I lately, well, not even just lately. I mean, it's been one of my faves for a long time. But off of Black Tiger, there's a ballad on there. Well, there's a couple actually, but you know, there's always, when I get into the ballad thing, I don't know what it is about that. It's so expressive, I guess, is what it is, and that kind of a thing always makes it a little bit more special for me, because it usually means that there's going to be a little more passionate display on stage, one way or the other, either with an extended solo or the fact that I get to really sing to the crowd, you know, without a whole lot of other things sort of getting in the way. And one of those songs is Winds of Change to me, because I get to sing the intro sort of almost just me and John playing very softly on his guitar, and then it sort of builds into this thing that becomes more intense and everything, and it's an emotional song for me. So I love that one especially lately. And beyond that, I Believe in You is always a classic, because of the fact that, again, it has this long solo at the end, and every night I don't play the same thing. I just let whatever happens, so that each night it's a different performance of that song. So it's really cool. I love that stuff.
Well, right there, you mentioned two of my all-time favorites, without a doubt. Those kind of have to be in just about every Y&T set. And, you know, real quick on Black Tiger, I'm glad you included a live version on this new album too, because I've thought the last few times I saw you guys play live, you did Don't Want to Lose, and I always thought that was the Y&T hit that wasn't, that should have been. And it still sounds great live too.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that came off really good. And in fact, I remember when we were listening back to just rough mixes of it in my studio, we were just thinking, okay, now what really pops out? And to me, and all the guys actually, we all felt like Don't Want to Lose was really well played over that weekend. So, you know, I hope it comes off that way with people that are listening to it on this record. I certainly think it did. And of course, we break it down a little bit and let the crowd get into singing the chorus every once in a while with us on that, and which, you know, I don't want to say that that is an excuse, because we actually like it because of the fact that there's a good place to break it down for that. I know a lot of singers nowadays, sometimes they let the crowd sing a little too much of this.
That's true, man. That's true. There's a lot of singers out there that let the crowd do the heavy lifting parts.
Exactly. No, I don't do that, and you know that.
No, so, but you don't need to.
But no, this is just a fun song, you know, where everybody gets a chance to sort of get this nice melodic chorus out there for a few in a row.
Yeah, well, that's cool, man. It's also got to be incredibly tough to come up with set lists now, because you've got all these live records, but I guess trying to mix up the track listing and the stuff that you're doing that's included on them, you have to be aware of. And when you play live, one of the things you guys do that's so much fun is you encourage people. Yell out a song. I mean, even if you don't go through the whole song, you'll give them a minute of it, a cappella at least. You know, so that's fun. That creates a great vibe with a Y&T show too. You yell something out that you want to hear in between. There's a pretty good chance you're going to get a few minutes of it.
That's right, absolutely. I love doing that, you know, and I think it creates sort of this really cool vibe between the crowd and the band too. Is that we're just not scripted up there, you know. Not every night is it says, oh, it's another book night, here we go, let's put out the same song. No, you know, we switch up almost every single night. We play a slightly different set. We may, you know, inject, okay, well, let's take this song out and put it in a different element that we want to play tonight or whatever. But then we get that thing where, you know, it just depends on the mood and the moment. You know, I'll hear somebody, you know, yell something out, or else I'll ask people, what do you want to hear that may not be on the set? And, you know, 9 times out of 10, we'll play at least, you know, a quarter of the song, if not the entire song, depending on whether or not the entire band remembers it or not. You know, I mean, that's the thing. Because sometimes people will call out some pretty bizarre stuff, you know, way down in deep tracks, and it's like, oh, man, I don't even remember the chords behind that, let alone anything else.
You got to put a tip.
Give it a go, you know, and in fact, there's at least 2, if not more, songs on this live record that was exactly, that's what happened. In fact, Surrender on this was a request from the crowd in our something like, we were already past 2.5 hours of playing. We were in the encore. We'd already played 2 songs in the encore, and then we took requests for 3 more songs, and then played another song after that. It was absolutely nuts, but that was one of the ones that made it on the record, was Surrender, and that just kills. And you're talking about a pretty tired singer by that time. But it just came off. It was kicking butt.
You know, you need a Y&T tip jar or something on the stage. You know that it's a big peeve of mine that everywhere you go now, people put a tip jar out. I mean, I don't mind tipping someone, but now everybody's got a tip jar out. You just put a Y&T tip jar, $1 a song. Put a little logo on it. Have Jill put a little Y&T logo on it. You know, what the heck? Hey, bands are charging $1,000 for a front row ticket. I don't think kicking in $1 to hear your favorite Y&T song would be so bad. So.
Oh, I agree with that. But you know what? I got to tell you, Eddie, that stuff kills me. I can't do it, man. I mean, if we hear a promoter doing something like that on our behalf, I tell Jill, who manages the band, I just tell her, no, we're not going to do that. I refuse to rip off the fans like that. I mean, I know that there's some that you know, there's actually doing some stuff that maybe it's worth the extra $50 or $100 or whatever to them. You know, maybe they get to have dinner with the band or something. No.
There's thousands of dollars extra, and sometimes the reward is you get to go to the merch booth and spend more money before anybody else.
Yeah, that's bullshit, man. I mean, come on. You know, I mean, that's on the same plane to me as when ball players started charging little kids for autographing their cards. I mean, you know, this is what your business is, man, and you have to be thankful for those fans, and you don't want to be bending them over every 5 seconds, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, Dave, Jim Florentine from my TV show just walked in and wanted to say hello too.
All right.
How's it going, Dave? Huge Y&T fan back in the day. You put one of the blues from your blues album, that solo disc you put out. That's going to be on. There's one song on the live album now too.
What's that? You're distorting in my phone.
Wait, swing that other mic around. Hold on a second. Maybe we got a bad mic there. Let me try this one. Go ahead.
The blues album that you put out, I forget what it was called. I picked it up when I saw you guys live. Didn't you put one of the songs on this new live album?
That's still hard for me to understand.
He said, yeah, I don't know, we must have a problem with the mic. He said that there's a song from one of your blues albums on here.
Right. Okay, yeah, that was the part I couldn't understand. Yeah, it's pretty scratchy on my phone right now, but that's all right. Yeah, actually, you're right. It's called Until the Next Time, and it's an instrumental. And, you know, we've always kept my, in my independent, blues stuff away from Y&T. I mean, we never did any of my own solo songs in a Y&T set because we just had too many dang Y&T songs. It was hard enough for us to put them in there in the first place. So, I didn't want to do that to the band. And but, I just asked, just on an aside one time, I said, hey, man, do you guys think you would be interested in letting us do, like, just one song, just an instrumental so that I could kind of stretch out for a minute, give my voice a break, and just give some of those fans of the solo stuff, which I have not had a chance to play for a long time, a chance to hear it live, and they were all, hell yes, let's do it. So we started doing it in Europe in the fall last year, and so, of course, we came straight from that fall European tour, and the first date at home was the Mystic Theater, which is these shows that's on this new CD, and we just kept doing it. We played it both nights, and it killed. But I took it off the record, man. I just said, you know what, this is a Y&T double live. I don't want to put my solo thing on here. So.
Well, there's enough material on here, that's for sure. I mean, to keep people satisfied. There's a lot of songs. It's 2 discs. It's amazing playing. The last thing, Dave, on this record is, did you shoot it? I mean, was this show filmed also?
Yeah, actually we did, and we have a friend, Karen Alvarez, that has been, around the band ever since I think we ever started, and she had started this video company and had mentioned, hey, do you want us to come down here with a couple of cameras and shoot it? And we thought, yeah, we're going to be recording it anyway, so, why not? But, after we saw the thing, it was like, we'd done this once before at the same theater on our 30th anniversary of the band, where we had every single person that ever played in Y&T show up that night and play. And it was a momentous occasion, but there's something about the lighting or something in that venue, it just looks flat on video. So, I just thought, if we're going to release a real DVD that's new since the last one we put out, I want it to be spectacular looking, and it just wasn't. So we, she's still got this stuff, and we're thinking, well, maybe we'll, put the audio on it from the CD and everything, so it's not some crappy little, thing that they recorded in a cell phone out in the audience. And, maybe release a few of them that way. But, honestly, unless it's just killing me, I'm real picky about putting something out there for real for the video thing.
When and how can people get this new Y&T album? I know that Jill was telling me earlier that you can order it through the website, which is yntrocks.com, and then it's going to roll out from there. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we literally turned down our record company's, want for releasing the record, and we did that for a reason. I mean, we kind of wanted this to be more, and along the lines of what you said you wish it wasn't, which was, sort of direct to the fans thing. And, of course, it'll be online. You can buy it at iTunes and Amazon and all that kind of stuff. It's not available yet because we got this record out so fast that we got it out before those guys even had it in their system yet. So it'll be up on that, on iTunes and Amazon, all the other places that sell digitally in probably the next week or two at the latest. But, yeah, right now at the moment, you can get it on our website at yntrocks.com.
And spell out the A-N-D in between, and you can find out about that. And, of course, the catalog, which has been remastered over the years, and you're looking for all the great Y&T titles, that's the place to go. Final thing, Dave, and I'll let you go. What is the future Y&T touring plans? You mentioned a few minutes ago you got a busy rest of the year.
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, we're playing, I think, 64 shows, and we've got probably 2/3 of that, if not more, is coming. So, yeah, we kind of spread out the playing of the first half of the year, and one of the reasons was that we wanted to finish this project. And so, yeah, we're going in 2 weeks to Europe for 5 shows for a couple of festivals. And then we fly back home and play about 4 or 5 more shows in the States, maybe 6. and then back out to Europe again for the fall headline Y&T tour that we do every year, which is 2 months. And then guess where we end up as soon as we come back from there? Another weekend at the Mystic Theater on the 16th and 17th of November. So it's a long year yet to come.
Well, I'm going to put those dates on my calendar and actually try to get out there, because that sounds like a pilgrimage every Y&T fan should make at one point. So I want to definitely try to see you guys there. You know, Dave, it just struck me too, you talking about Europe. I mean, I remember as a kid growing up a fan of Y&T. It seems like Europe and England were really some of the earliest people to embrace the band, because I think I kind of got turned on and discovered the band because when I was a kid, I was a big reader and buyer of Kerrang! Magazine, which is a British magazine, and I remember they were always featuring Y&T and talking about Y&T, even really early on in the band's history. So it really kind of started pretty early on for you overseas, huh?
Yeah, it did. As a matter of fact, we were sort of unaware of the amount of people that were really getting into the band at that time, because we hadn't even been outside of the States until we started recording the Black Tiger record, which we did over in the UK, and we used that opportunity to start touring over there. But that was '82, and the first release from A&M, which was Earthshaker, had already become the album of the year in Holland and all these different places. And we didn't know. I mean, we just didn't know. I mean, we were kind of kept in the dark. We knew we were getting a lot of press over there, but things were not so forthcoming for us at that time. And, you know, obviously the internet was not up and running like it is now. So, you know, when even the band finds out, you know, way after the fans do, that was pretty typical back then. But, yeah, ever since we went there in '82 and toured the very first time in the UK, I remember that, you know, we had gotten this promoter and this agent, and he said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, we'll throw you down a decent, you know, UK tour, playing a couple of small halls and some clubs and stuff." And so after the first couple of shows, we were selling out everything, and I mean, we didn't know. I figured, you know, God, I'm surprised anybody knows who we are, and he freaked out, and so he added more dates, and we ended up doing almost a complete sellout show tour on our very first attempt out over there in the UK, and it was kind of like that everywhere we went from there forward. You know, going over to Holland, and then finding out that we had this. You know, Earthshaker was voted as the #1 record of the year. That we were like, wow, you know, and of course, you know, after that things just started rolling over there for us. We got the AC/DC tour of Europe and England, and did the Aussie tour in '83, and then we did our own headline tour after that, and this just started kicking butt. It was truly a nice thing to have, and probably one of the biggest mistakes we ever made in our career had something to do with Europe as well, which was management and a few band members at that time saying no to going back there after about 1985, and that was absolutely crazy to me. But
why was that? What was that based on?
Well, I mean, I don't want to name names, but I'll just say that there were a couple people that were, you know, more interested in making it in the U.S. only. You know what I mean? You know, and to me it was like, well, why would we only want to do anything? You know, I mean, we've already built this great following overseas. Why don't we do the U.S. and overseas like everybody else? And it was just a very strange decision that isolated a couple of us from each other in the band, and made for some really tough times. As you know, we finally got back there in 2003. I mean, literally from '86 to 2003, no Y&T in Europe after we had become headliners in some places. I mean, it was absolutely the stupidest decision we ever made. But you know, majority ruled, I guess, at that point.
Do you have a favorite band one or two favorite bands that you shared the stage with over the years, whether in Europe or here in America? I mean, you mentioned, you know, touring with AC/DC, touring with Ozzy. I mean, you could only imagine what went on back then in those days. But do you have a favorite band or a favorite story from any of those periods that you remember from the live touring?
Well, you know, I mean, we've had great times with everybody we've been out with for the most part. And I mean, I don't even want to sit here and list them all. There's too many to even mention. But honestly, AC/DC still, in my memory, is my favorite tour. And maybe that was because we were, you know, starting to really take off, and and everything was so still new to us to some degree or whatever. But also, it's the fact that their music just makes me feel so cool just listening to it every night. We didn't go home after every performance because, when you're on tour with somebody for a couple of months, you've seen their show a couple of times, and then, you get tired after you're off stage, you meet the fans, and then you go back to the hotel or in your bus or whatever, and you're off. But not that tour. I mean, we sat on the side of the stage every night and watched the whole thing. It was so cool.
What tour were they on, and what tour were you on?
Well, in '82, we were on the For Those About to Rock tour.
Right.
And we did the whole UK with them. It was just the two of us. And we did Europe right after that. It was so successful, they asked us back to that. And in fact, that was the tour that when we ended the UK tour, we were in Ireland, in Dublin. And that was the tour that Ozzy came back with his wife, Sharon, and got down on his knees and asked me to join his band. I'll never forget that one.
Go ahead, Jim. If you can hear, Jim wanted to say something. Hopefully you can hear him.
So Dave, this was obviously after Randy Rhoads passed away when they were looking for a guitar player.
Well, yeah, absolutely was. And they already had a temporary guitar player with him, which was also a Bay Area guy. And he was playing with them, and he just, he just wanted somebody like me that was jumping around on stage, that had this energy, and I guess he liked my playing or whatever it was. But it was very embarrassing, man. I mean, really, because we'd just come off stage, we had a great show, and in front of the rest of my band, he got down on his knees and begged me to join the band. And I was in an awkward position. I mean,
did you think he was proposing to you or something?
Yeah, exactly. It was weird, and Sharon's standing right next to him, and I don't know. It was just a strange drive for me. I'd never met him before that moment, and and consequently, even though I turned him down, he asked us to be their opening act on the European tour the next year. So I guess he wasn't too upset.
So you knew Brad Gillis at the time, right, of being a Bay Area guitar player.
Yeah, and Brad was the guitar player in the band. And, he said some things about Brad and said, he's a great player and everything. But, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but I just thought it was funny the way, you can imagine, this coming out of his mouth with his crazy, playful attitude. He goes, I had to teach him how to look like a rock star, and I had to grab his hair and move him all over the stage. He just wanted to stand there. And I'm like...
Yeah, but see, in defense of Brad, and we've had Brad on this show a lot and talked to him about his time in Ozzy. But in defense of Brad, if you read any stories from that period with Ozzy, if you become too animated and try to upstage the frontman Ozzy, you're also going to get a slap on the wrist. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. I mean, again, that was no disrespect against Brad. He's an amazing player, and what Ozzy says behind closed doors, and as a crazy man as he is,
well, he was whacked out of his mind at the time too. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, he was, those were rough years for Ozzy.
Yeah, you're right. Although I must say, when we toured with him in '83 in Europe, he was absolutely together. As far as we could tell, he seemed. I mean, he was still a bit out there, but he seemed like just gentle, the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. And I mean, he went out of his way to do all kinds of things for me personally and for the band. And I just thought he was a really genuinely nice fellow.
How do you think your career would have been different though if you would have taken that gig?
You know what? I just never looked back on that stuff.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I mean, I've had some other offers as well that were probably even bigger than that. But I just. Here's my first point. At that time, of course, it was really easy to make that decision because we were up and coming. We were starting to kick butt, and the Black Tiger record was just going to come out. I mean, everything was looking so good for us. This was my band. I mean, this was the band I wanted to be in. The last thing I wanted to do was become a substitute for somebody else's band. And, because I became a musician because I loved music and because I wanted to create. And maybe he would have let me create some songs and songwrite with him and everything, but it would have been his band, It's just not the same feeling as as going out and doing your own thing, you know.
And Brad said the same thing to me over the years too. I mean, Brad said he had just landed a deal finally with Night Ranger, and he wanted to go do, be in a band as opposed to be the sideman for Ozzy. But it's kind of it's a rough call, because in Brad's case, coming into Night Ranger, you don't know if you're going to have success or not. You were already having success and chipping away with Y&T, so you would have had to abandon that. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. And I certainly wasn't willing to abandon the band at that point. And I'm happy with my decision. Because the money thing is just, that was what people always say, well, you would have made some decent money, and maybe you would have gotten your name out there better for Y&T. And I thought, well, maybe I would have. And you're probably right about the Y&T part. But what would have happened all those months that I would have been on tour with them, while Y&T's sitting there, twiddling their thumbs? I mean, that would have been a terrible time, because we were really starting to come up and be, something at that point. And to stop it right there just would have been a bad vibe for me,
Yeah, and you don't know if Ozzy would have let you do Y&T still. He might have just wanted you to be exclusive with the band. But you also mentioned that you had a bigger offer than joining Ozzy. I mean, the only one I could think of is maybe Aerosmith.
Well, yeah, it wasn't Aerosmith. Actually, I was friends with those guys, and they're cool guys. But now, bigger in a different way.
Can you mention it or no? Can you say it or no?
No, it was cool. It was cool. Yeah. No, I did get offered the Whitesnake gig at one point, but that I wasn't thinking about. I was thinking about bigger in a different way, and maybe it was a monetary way. Was that when Y&T decided to throw in the towel for a very short period of time in '91, and we were all frustrated with the industry, the first call I got from somebody was from Peter Frampton, and Peter called me and asked me to join a band with him. And Geffen A&R guy, John Kolodner, said, "This is going to be $1 million deal for you, Maniketti. It's going to be lead guitar player and lead singers from 2 different places in rock getting together and making this thing, and it's a guaranteed deal. Take it. It's going to be fantastic." And I was so frustrated by what was happening at the time with Y&T and us, making the decision to sort of stop for the time being, that I couldn't just jump into something right away. I needed some time to think. And I told him that, and to his credit, he was really sweet about it. And he said, "Hey, I totally understand. When I left Humble Pie, I was in the same position. I had no idea what I was going to do yet. I kind of wanted to do my own thing, but I needed time to figure it out." So, I turned it down. I turned down so many things that people thought, "What are you doing?" And, all I can tell you is that I just go from the gut. I'm not doing this to make it a huge amount of money. If it happens, thank God it does. But the main thing is it's the passion for what I want to do and feeling like I'm doing what I want from the gut. And that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for that. There's a lot of guys that don't want to go into situations and be the side guy or the guy added into the equation. Another one of my favorite guitar players, Michael Schenker, has told me he was offered gigs to join everybody from the Rolling Stones to Aerosmith to whatever, and he said he just doesn't feel like he can create the same way. And he also told me something interesting too. As a guitar player, he's never comfortable going into a situation where he has to basically play a large part of somebody else's work. Like, in other words, he wants to be in bands where the bulk of what he's playing is stuff that he created and not what somebody else did.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that I lived through a replacement for Leonard Hayes, right? And saw how they were getting treated by the press, by some of the fans. And, and I thought, wow, man. We certainly had our good name to some degree, but not in the way that, if I were to replace somebody in Ozzy's band or something like that. You talk about getting scrutinized. Wow, and not that scared me, because quite frankly I didn't care about that, but it was more about the creativity thing the reason that I didn't want to do it. And of course the other reasons I've already mentioned. But yeah, it can be brutal when you're taking somebody else's place that is the only too beloved. Whether or not they were fired or they unfortunately passed away or whatever the reason may be. Now you're all of a sudden set up to be in a position where you're going to be judged against that other person, Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the ultimate place to be if you want to be doing it for creative purposes.
Right. Well, listen, man, I know, I could talk to you forever. We've already talked about 40, 45 minutes, and it's always fun to get into a conversation with you, Dave. As a huge lifelong fan, it's great to see the band still going, still sounding so good. And again, the new album is called Live at the Mystic, a double CD. Go to yntrocks.com, spell out the A-N-D, and you can order it, and then it'll roll out as a digital and all that. But as I always say, having the CD, opening it up, seeing the pictures, that's the way to have it, in my opinion. So however you got to get it, make sure you get it, because there's a tremendous track listing. And as you can hear, this band still is just in amazing form. So congrats on the new record, man, and I hope to see you again live soon somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's going to happen. I mean, we were out your way earlier in the year after we did the Monsters of Rock cruise. We went up and played BB King's near you, and we did see you there. You were on stage all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, because, you guys are the only band in history that went on early. Because the club is calling me up saying, you got to get here to Intro Y&T, and of course it's an honor to do so. And they're going on at 8 o'clock sharp. And I said, okay. And I was, coming in from Jersey into New York. The traffic's a little tight, and I'm coming up on the tunnel. But I'm okay. I missed it. I made the traffic. I was strolling about 7:50, 10 minutes of, and you're playing. I said, wait a minute. I'm looking at the clock. I said, when have you ever seen a band go on early? But that's because the club had some sort of changeover, and as you said earlier, you guys play a long time, and you needed to be off by a certain time. So,
well, remember the first time?
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it works. It works in our favor. In most instances, it does nowadays, because a lot of times the club owners want you to start your set at 11 o'clock or something, and we're going, are you kidding me, man? I mean, I'm telling you, we've done this so many times. You get halfway through a 2-hour set, and the crowd starts spinning out because they got babysitters, they got whatever else, they got to go to work the next day. I mean, it's not conducive to having a whole crowd there for the whole show if you're going to go on at 11 o'clock. I mean, I understand New York City, probably kind of early. But,
But, Dave, I'm laughing because if people listening to this whole conversation, which started about 40 minutes ago, we were talking earlier about when you went on at 1:30 in the morning at L'Amour's, so you can see how things have changed in 30 years, where we're now talking about getting home in time for kids and babysitters, where back then, as kids ourselves, we were like, no problem rolling over the Goethals Bridge at 4 a.m. I just saw Y&T.
Times are changing, man.
Well, Dave, do you remember the first time you did BB King's, maybe like 5-6 years ago when you came back to New York? I think it was for the first time in a long time. They actually put tables on the dance floor. So everybody, me and Eddie walked in there, we're like, what is this? And people are sitting there eating. We're like, Y&T's coming on. Like, I don't care. Me and Eddie just stood right in front of somebody's table. Like, I don't care if they paid extra for this table. There's no way I'm not going to be on the floor right in front of Dave. And then everybody just got up, and then we just started moving the tables to the side.
Yeah, exactly. Hence has been that's one of the examples of how sometimes it's tough in certain markets for us that we haven't been in a long time. And we have not been back to the East Coast for a long time at that point. And so the promoters are like, why and who? And so, we're sitting there trying to tell them what the hell's going on. And no, this is like a concert band. You're not going to get it. You can't put tables on the floor, and they go, whatever. And then, of course, after we played the show, they're like, okay, we get it. We're not going to do that again.
Instead of Y&T, they thought the band was named Wine and Tea. You sit there and have finger cookies or finger sandwiches and watch the band. Listen, man.
The cool thing about the bad part of that is that every time we play a gig where the promoter just has no clue who we are, and then he sees the fans show up and he hears the band, they go, oh, wow. Sorry that we ever gave you any shit. You guys can come back anytime you want. So it's been a learning experience for a lot of people all around the world here.
And you're playing the cruise next year again too, right? Are you on already for Monsters of Rock?
Are you coming, Eddie?
I'm on as well. So it'll be great seeing you guys up there on that deck by the pool playing Winds of Change with the wind literally whipping through the air on the high seas on the Monsters of Rock cruise was a certain highlight. So that was a lot of fun.
Hey, let me just remind you in advance, bring your passport, man.
You know, speaking of Brad Gillis and all those guys still haven't let me live that down either. But like an idiot, I just, for some reason, didn't connect. I needed a passport on the cruise, and it became a running gag because I had massive delays and problems getting on the ship. I literally watched every single person walk by me as I stood there with my bags get on the ship, and then had the same problem trying to get off the ship, and did another meet and greet with everybody on the ship while I waited to get off. So by the time, before the ship, the good part is before the ship even left, I had met and people were nice enough to take pictures with me with just about every single person on that ship before it even left, because they all had to walk by me to get on while I waited there. But I just was like, I don't know what happened. I figured a cruise out of Florida, who needs a passport? And I just never bought it.
Well, I know, because we were just coming in when we saw you with that look on your face, man, and you were trapped, and I was like, oh man, what can we do to help? I don't know, but you got it together. That was cool.
The funniest part about that, and again, I'm honored and flattered that anybody who watches our TV show, you know, wants to take a picture or something with me. But the people, as they were walking on the ship, would come over to take a picture with me, and I'm not doing anything but waiting for hours anyway. So sure, take a shot. But the woman who was working customs started yelling at me because people were taking their cameras out, and you can't take cameras out in a customs area. So she's yelling.
I remember that woman. I remember her, man. I was checking her out. She seemed like she was confused, and she didn't know what to do, you know.
She said, she looked at me at one point and she said, I'm sure it is, because she had some accent, she goes, I'm sure it is very nice for you that all these people know who you are, but tell them to put their cameras away.
Really?
And I'm like, I can't control their cameras. You got somebody to do that. I'm just standing here. Let me on the ship. I said, if they all know my name and are yelling out Eddie, don't you think my license is good enough? It's me. Let me on.
Eddie, you are the reluctant celebrity, man.
I'm just a fan, man, that loves the bands, but I appreciated all those people, but...
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. But I got to tell you, man, when we were getting ready to go, you know, to check in for the boat, we heard this big row happening where all these people were standing in line and they were watching the rock stars enter the boat area. And I go, wow, who are they yelling at right now? It's Eddie, man. Eddie, I think you got the biggest response in the crowd.
Well, I appreciate anybody that gives a shit about what I do, and there's a lot of them, and I appreciate each and every one of them, as I'm sure, you know, you do that, all the Y&T fans out there as well. They've been so great to you over the years, so...
Well, I bet these people on XM and Sirius are like, where's the music, man?
No, they know my show by now. They know that I yap just as much as I play music. And to me, Dave, doing radio in 2012, in our day and age of iPods and 5,000 songs in your pocket, you got to be doing something more than playing records. So that's a part of it. But doing this is the stuff I love, too. And I appreciate you being so generous with the time.
Well, thank you, man. Bless you. I'll tell you, you're one of the rare few in this industry that I keep saying it to, and you know it, and it's genuine. I mean, you are one of the few guys out there that really understands this genre and knows the right things about it. You know, you don't say stuff out of the side of your mouth that is bullshit. You tell the people the truth and how things work. When somebody says something stupid that gets passed along the internet, you correct it. I mean, that's the shit, man. You are on it.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that coming from you, man. And I'll let you go. Give me another one, though. Jim, did you want to say anything before we went?
No, I want to hear some of this live stuff. Is Don't Stop Running on there?
Wait a minute. Did we put it? No, we didn't. Sorry.
Well, give me one that you want to play, Dave, because I played Straight Through the Heart, which is one of my favorites, which actually I think I talked you into a request one night myself that went into the set.
Yeah, that was it. And that actually came out very well. Let's see.
Well, Rescue Me should have been a top 10 hit. I told you that when I met you when we did that metal show.
Yeah, that's a cool tune, man.
If that would have came out at the right time, I don't know exactly what time, but that should have been a top 10 hit, easily.
Yeah, you know, in the Bay Area, it was a big deal. They still play it all the time on the local radio stations. But, you know, so we always thought, well, maybe it's just a local thing that they like that song or something. But we found out from touring across the world that was one of the premier songs for us, you know, as far as the crowd response went. So we ended up making that like an encore tune or something like that a lot of times. So it's a great one. If you want to play Rescue Me, go for it, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I'm going to do? I'll do Rescue Me, but I want to do...
If you want something fast and furious, do something like Blind Patriot or, I don't know. You guys pick it.
Well, you know what I always love? I mean, I love all this stuff, but you know what I always love? I love the journey that Dirty Girl always goes on in terms of where you go with the song.
Dirty Girl in this one is an extended track, man, where me and John are just whipping these solos out, and it's cool, man. That's a great track.
Well, and you talked about this album also showcasing 30-year anniversary of Earthshaker, so I want to do Dirty Girl, and then we'll do Rescue Me, and we'll do like a little Earthshaker mini live set here from the new album. And then, of course, I just got this, so over the weeks we'll continue to get into other tracks. And again, everybody can buy it at yntrocks.com. Dave, always a pleasure, man. I look forward to seeing you soon. And we have to get you one of these days. We got to get you up on that in those stands playing for us on that metal show.
I know.
You're hesitant about it at times, but it'll be nothing but love, and you can do whatever you want.
No, I appreciate that, man. You already knew what my whole trip was about that. I used to see the guys that we'd have up there, and they were really flashy guys. I mean, they were the kind of guys that would go into, like Guitar Center and start ripping stuff off, by themselves. Solos. and I'm the kind of guy that, I can play a good solo, but I like playing with a band. I don't like, ripping by myself. So I thought, I'm just going to bore the hell out of everybody if I just go on there. But no, I saw some other guys come up later, like Warren DeMartini and stuff, and they did more sort of controlled stuff. And I thought, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, Gilby Clark even did that. We had Gilby Clark on, and he's not a shredder guy. He just came on and did what he felt, and we encourage everybody to do whatever they feel. I mean, the only condition there is, as I'm sure people figured out by now, you can't play published material because we can't pay the publishing, but, it's just whatever's coming from you at that time, whether it's something flashy or just a cool kind of chunky riff. I mean, it's your spot, so do whatever you want with it.
Okay, all right.
So I'll continue the conversation with Jill. We'll keep working on you.
Yeah, we'll work. We need you there.
And we'll generously hold up this Live at the Mystic every time we introduce you when we tape the new shows.
All right, yeah.
We know how it works. We'll make sure we're generous with the plugs.
We're professional with the plugs. We know how to work them in.
When you see what you get paid for it at the end, you'll realize why we have to pay in plugs.
Yeah, I hear you, buddy.
All right, Dave.
You guys take care, man. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Anytime, man. Anytime. We'll see you soon.
All right, cheers.
All right, bye-bye. There he goes, Dave Maniketti of Y&T. That's what I love about doing radio, man. Almost an hour of great conversation with a truly remarkable guitar player and singer, one of those dual threats that just has lost nothing with age, still just kills it. And let's do a track or two now from the album we spent a lot of time talking about. Again, it's Y&T Live at the Mystic. And man, that interview and this whole thing, another reason why I love doing live radio. I mean, literally came together in the course of an hour. I got the CD in my mail, I left the house, I called Dave's wife, she said, sure, he'll come on, and there you go. I mean, that's what it's about for me, so... Good stuff. Jim Florentine just walked in, too. He'll be hanging out. We'll get your calls on towards the end of the show, probably about a half an hour from now. Like I said, I gave up my tickets to go see Iron Maiden tonight, so you bet your ass we're doing live stuff with calls and your interviews and requests and everything like that. I could easily phone this in and just put it on a tape, but I'm here, so we're getting involved in a lot of stuff.
I was trying to get Eddie. Eddie had an extra ticket for me. I'm like, come on, Eddie, let's go to Maiden. You're like, I got to do my show, man. I'm like, come on.
Well, listen.
I'm like, your audience will understand if Maiden is playing 20 minutes from your house, and you're like, I got to go in there.
Well, listen, again, in full disclosure, myself, Jim, Don, we're going to be in L.A. when Maiden plays there, so I've already got that lined up for us. So it's not like I'm giving up Maiden altogether.
Right.
We're just going to go on the West Coast, but it does suck because they're about 6 miles from us and probably just hit the stage 5 minutes ago, probably playing The Prisoner right now. And but hey, man, I want to do. Well, I'm only here once a week, so we got to do it live as much as we can. That's what this show's about. So, speaking of live at the Mystic Y&T. I haven't even heard this yet, but this is Dirty Girl.
We're celebrating a lot of things tonight. One of the things we're doing, of course, is, as you well know, 30th anniversary of Earthshaker, so we're going to be playing a few of those tunes as well. And the first one's coming up right now. again. When I go to sleep, I pray I wouldn't wake up. When I want you, I said I want you, and I want you to rescue me. The world kept turning, but I stood still, just a shadow looking for a man. Did I play to win, or did I win to lose? Of all the cards I had to draw the fool. People telling me about the things to do. The more I hear, the less I see the truth. Oh, I'm on the edge, and I can't look down. Baby, slipping now. Oh, I want you to rescue me. Wow, rescue me. You know I want you. I want you to rescue me. Come on. Wow, rescue me. A voice faintly calling from another time. Oh, so strange, it sounds like mine. And the shades of black, the twisted road. And I can't see the sky from here. Do I turn around or go straight ahead? I can't stop now, I'll find the light somewhere. Oh, I'm on the edge, and I can't look down. Oh, baby, slipping now. Oh, I want you to rescue me. Wow, rescue me. You know I want you. Want you to rescue me. Wow, rescue me. Rescue me! Oh, rescue me! Yeah.
That one was selected by Jim Florentine, who just walked into the studio during the Lengthy Dave Maniketti conversation from the new Y&T Live at the Mystic. We heard 2 tracks there, Rescue Me and Dirty Girl, both of which the studio versions are on the Earthshaker album. Just great stuff. Jim, you've come to a bunch of Y&T shows with me. Just amazing band still.
Yeah, I never saw them back in the day, so it was great that, you know, they come around here once a year now, so I've seen them at least 3 times the last 6 years.
You didn't go back? I mean, I was talking to Maniketti earlier in the New York area, always going to see him at L'Amour's back in the early 80s and all that. You never made those shows?
No, I never got to them.
Amazing, man. The place would be just packed, sweaty, hot, just killer stuff.
I didn't do too many shows at L'Amour's.
No?
Maybe like 5. You know, Birch Hill was my place. That was right. I used to work there, and that was right around the corner from me, so that was my...
Yeah, me too. I mean, I went to a lot of shows there too, but for some reason I was always going to Brooklyn because they were getting, you know, they were getting the bands before they broke. You know, they were getting the bands early in their careers, and it was just like the stronghold. Like if a band like Y&T were going to play anywhere, it was always going to be L'Amour's. You know, they wouldn't play those places for whatever.
I remember
reason.
seeing Anthrax there right when Among the Living came out. It was just insane.
Well, the cover of my book is, if people have my book, the cover, the shot of that crowd off the stage, that's L'Amour's in Brooklyn, and that was before Anthrax on Among the Living.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was that. I came out and did a stage intro, and because I was doing radio even back then, and I walked off, and Ron Akiyama came out and snapped that photo of the crowd going nuts. So that photo that you see on the cover of my book, it says right in the jacket, is Anthrax at L'Amour in Brooklyn. And just look at the cover of my book, and you can see what L'Amour's was in the 80s. Shoulder to shoulder, guys, leather jackets, even if it's 130 degrees, packed against the barricade. Every band was like that.
I wonder if that was the same show. That must have been the same show as that. I remember right before Anthrax went on, my friend sent me to the bar to get beer, so I had like 4 drafts, beers, big beers, and I'm walking across like in the front, and all of a sudden they came on, and I got caught in the mosh. And I got back, and there was like a half a beer left out of the 4.
And they charged a tremendous amount of money even back then by standards for beers.
I was making like $6 an hour, and I just paid.
It was like $8 for a Budweiser, and this is like an 87.
And I dropped them all except for a half.
And if you got a mixed drink, you get it in like a plastic Dixie cup, and it would be served by the bartender, would always be sure to serve it with his finger in the drink, like, you know, over the rim of the drink. So the index finger was actually in the drink as it got dropped on the bar. Legendary place that's not there anymore, but I literally grew up going there, and I mean, I can't tell you how many shows I saw there over the years, and I have a lot of fond memories of seeing Y&T back then as well. So
that was the first time I met you, except in Saxon, was back in like 2003 or something like that. They played there. Not except, it was Udo. It was Udo's band, and Saxon went on. Saxon headlined.
At L'Amour's?
Yeah. It was at, you know, when L'Amour's reopened or whatever.
That was before Ozfest, when I met you guys at Ozfest?
Yeah, the first time I met, because it was just me and my brother.
That.
Me and my brother went, and you blew me off. I'm like, yeah, I'm a big fan from your radio show. It's like, yeah, thanks. Well, no, I'm like, that guy wants no part of it.
Yeah, I figure every person in the world that comes up and he tells me they're a big fan looks like Florentine.
I know.
Nobody comes up and looks like Megan Fox and says that.
I know. I'm sorry I didn't have a hot chick with me that night.
99% of my fan base is guys like Jim. Hey, I'm a big fan. I've been listening a long time. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Hey, keep moving along.
Yeah, but at least I didn't do it when a friggin' Accept song was on or Saxon. I made sure I did it in between.
He wasn't playing Breaker or anything.
Yeah, I didn't go, hey, how come you don't play that other song off the record?
Too funny. Well, that was great talking to Dave Maniketti, one of the greats, and a lot of fun to talk to him as usual. The time flew by. We got 40 minutes left to go in the show. Jim, you're hanging out for a little bit. What's going on with you, man?
I'm going to see Wednesday 13, who's part of the Murder Dolls with Joey Jordison. He's doing a solo thing tonight in New York City. So I've been in the city all day, so I couldn't go see Maiden, but I'll see him out in L.A., so I'm going to go check him out tonight.
Are you going to go blow gassers at his show and gas him off the stage?
Probably not. I don't think I have a...
The reason I bring that up...
that was in the studio, right?
2 things. First of all, I didn't know the Murder Dolls guys or Wednesday 13 all that well, and it was a couple years ago. We go to L.A., me, Don, and Jim, we just land to go to... We're just landing. We're getting there for the next week and a half. We're going to be taping the show. We pull up in the car. These guys didn't know me, and, you know, I remember they came out. They were glad to meet me. I was glad to meet them. We come out, and we're in this little studio. They're making this... Was it Murder Dolls, right?
It was the second Murder Dolls record, yeah.
And we're in this little studio, and it's tiny, and it's hot, and we're all just cramped around. They're playing us some mixes, and you and Don just
It was
blew the
Don,
place
actually.
out.
It was Don, actually. And Joey had his, I don't know if it's still the same girlfriend. Jordanson had, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 12 with him. She was like 22, super hot. And we're in there just listening to new music because it wasn't out yet. And Don's blowing gassers. And Joey is so disgusted, he's trying to run out of the room. And we're trying to take a picture because the band wanted a picture with all of us. And he's running, I can't take it, I can't take it. And Wednesday 13, the greatest line ever. He goes, this band deserves to be in stink, Joey. This band deserves to be in stink.
It was legendary, man. It was so great. And I don't know these guys that well. It was the first time I met